Hello YouTube! In this video I'm going to be showing you how to make mini apple turnovers using puff pastry. Now I've done a video on how to make puff pastry and the link is at the top, so click on that now if you want to know how to make puff pastry from scratch. If not, you can buy your own, that's fine. If you buy ready-made, it saves a lot of time. So let's just get straight onto this. You will need 360 grams of puff pastry. Then you'll need roughly 400 grams of peeled, cored and chopped apples. So they might weigh 400 grams, but once you've peeled and cored them, they're gonna weigh less. So keep that in mind. You'll also need 60 grams of caster sugar, which you're gonna put with the apple compote, and you will need 50 milliliters of water. Then to glaze, you're gonna need 1 egg, and then you're gonna need some icing sugar. All of the measurements and the steps are in the description, so if you miss anything, make sure you have a look. To make your apple compote, once you've peeled and cored your apples, you want to make sure you chop them up really small. Then you're going to put them into a small saucepan with the caster sugar and the water and some lemon juice. And you're going to just simmer that down for about 15 minutes. Then for the last few minutes, you want to turn the heat up and you want to dry out the compote. If you don't do that, then water's going to leak into your turnovers, into your pastry, and you're going to get a soggy bottom, which you don't want. So that's how I've done my compote. I've also added half a teaspoon of cinnamon in it. You don't have to add that. I just love cinnamon and apple, so I recommend that you do add that in. So to make the turnovers, you want to preheat the oven to 200 degrees fan, and then you're going to just sprinkle some flour onto the work surface and sprinkle a little bit of flour onto your rolling pin so it doesn't stick, and you're going to roll out your pastry into an oblong shape. So all I do for that is I just put some pressure on, then I always turn 90 degrees, making sure it's not sticking to the table. And again, just give it a few rolls, turn. If you do, put some more flour if it's starting to stick, because you just don't want that. And you want to roll it out to roughly the width of a pound coin. You don't want it really thick. And then you can turn it over, flip it over, and just carry on rolling. Then you're going to get your cutter. Now I've got the biggest cutter that I could find, and you're going to cut from the outside in, and I'm going to use the serrated edge to make it look prettier. So I'm just going to cut as many as I can of these. Then you want to lay out all of your circles, removing any of the excess pastry. Then you're going to fill your pastry. So to do this, just get a spoon of your apple mixture and just place it onto 1/2 of the pastry. And don't fill it right up to the edges because you won't be able to seal it. So I have got it halfway onto the pastry. Then you are just going to fold over the other side, and then very carefully you are just going to pinch together the sides of the pastry. You want to make sure that you've pinched it so the pastry is binded together and you've got no air gaps whatsoever. So you've made a lovely crescent there, and you are just going to do the rest. So again, you get a little bit of your filling, you put it on half of the side of the pastry. Now if you put too much in, take some out because you don't want it to overflow. They just burst and then they just won't look as appetizing. So I've left some of the edge there, then I'm going to fold this over and I'm just going to pinch the edges together. With the remaining pastry, now puff pastry really doesn't like to be re-rolled, but I don't want to waste any of it. Now I'm just going to try and knead it as little as possible, and I'm just going to roll out the rest of the remaining pastry. Once you've rolled it out, cut as many more as you can and fill them with the apple filling. Now just a tip that you want to make sure with the apple filling is that you let it cool completely before you fill your pastry. You don't want it to be warm, it will melt the butter of the pastry, your puff pastry won't puff, and it will just go very sticky and it will be very, very difficult to make. So make sure that you do cool your apple compote completely before you do this step. All of the pastry has now been filled with the apple filling, and then you want to whisk up your egg and you are going to glaze it. Now you can add an egg yolk and a tablespoon of milk for the glaze. I've just got just one egg for this. Using the pastry brush, you just want to go over it, and this just gives it a really gorgeous golden brown colour. What you could do to the edges is all I've done is just crimped it, but what you could do is to get a fork, and being careful not to pierce it, you could just use the edge of the fork to make a pattern into the edge of the little pastry as well. So I'm just going to do a mixture of those and then glaze them. Once you've glazed all of your mini turnovers, then what you want to do is put them onto a baking tray, preferably non-stick. If it's not, and it's quite an old one, then what I would recommend you do is to put some baking parchment, baking paper on the tray before you put these on there. You're going to put these into your preheated oven for 18 minutes. After the 18 minutes, you are then going to take them out of the oven, and you're going to dust some icing sugar on for the final glaze. You're going to whack the heat up to 220 degrees, and then you are going to cook them for a further 2 to 3 minutes until they have kind of almost caramelized. So I am going to put them in the oven, and then I'm going to show you that bit. So I'll see you in a second. So they have spent 18 minutes in the oven. Now I'm just going to put a dusting of icing sugar over the top of them, and then put them back in the oven at 220 degrees for about 2 to 3 minutes until the icing sugar has now melted and it's kind of caramelized on top. Then just lightly rub it with the fingers. If you do it quickly, it won't burn your fingers, it'll be fine. If you've got a pastry brush, use that. Back in the oven, and I'll show you when they come out. These gorgeous little beauties are now out of the oven, and I've just let them cool for 5 minutes. Now I just want to open this up so you can see what it looks like. So you can hear, as soon as you cut into it, the pastry crunches, and then you've got the beautiful, gorgeous apple cinnamon filling. So it's going to be light, crisp pastry with a sweet cinnamon filling. I've just used Braeburn apples, but you can use just cooking apples. They are in season in the UK at the minute, so just make the most of them. What you could also then do is just dust the rest of your icing sugar just very lightly over the top of your pastries, just to give it that last little finish. So there you have it, some beautiful mini apple turnovers. So I'm going to try not to eat all of these, but it's going to be very hard because they are delicious. I will see you again every Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday for videos. If you like what you see, make sure you subscribe and hit the notifications button so you know when my videos are being posted. I will see you in my next video.